Good evening and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and agenda setting meeting for September 5th, 2019. It is approximately 7 p.m. If we would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All of council is in attendance other than Mr. Duncan and Mr. Aracinko. They were unable to attend this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Citizens Night. This is the Citizens Night meeting for our month of September. This is your time to talk about any municipal item. We always ask for a 5-minute time limit with your comments. We feel that's an appropriate amount of time for you to get your point across. I will indicate to you when you have a minute left and also whenever you hit the 5-minute mark. We'd appreciate if you would keep to that rule. It helps the meeting move forward at a more efficient pace. Certainly, if you didn't feel your point was made, and if you had any additional questions afterwards, I'd be happy to speak with you, or Mr. Little would be available as well. As a point of clarification, in our agenda this evening, under the motions, motion number 4, there is a motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance to enter into an agreement to sell 10.42 acres of municipal property known as the Bel Air Swimming Pool to the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Just a point of clarification for everyone, this is not a voting meeting this evening. Tuesday, the 10th, is our voting meeting for the month of September. In the case for this motion, this is only to advertise the ordinance so it can be discussed at the October meeting. So there will be no vote on Tuesday regarding the sale of the pool. It's only to authorize the advertisement for next month, then we can discuss it in October, and at that point, council would consider that either vote for it, vote against it, or table it for a later month, or even a fourth option would be to pull it off the agenda once again. So just want to make that point of clarification. I had some questions during the past few days about that, and like I said, it's only to make the motion to advertise. Okay? So we're going to go right into our citizens' comments. I have a sign-in sheet here. If you did not sign in yet, you will have plenty of opportunity to do so, but I'm going to go off of the sheet I have in front of me right now. Nicole Henline.
Thank you. It's Nicole Henline. I'm the director of the library and a resident of Monroeville. I just wanted to let you know FunFest went very well. Thank you for everyone who was able to attend. It was a great success, and we're looking forward to next year. And September is Love Your Library Month. So anything fundraised or donated will be part of a percentage match with the Buncher Foundation. So if anyone can make a contribution of any size, it will grow in the month of September. And September 14th, the Friends of the Library are having a trivia night as a fundraiser, and that's always a very good time. So if you would consider joining us, we'd love to have you. You can join a team already formed or bring your own team. It's $20 a person. And I wanted to, as quickly as I could, tell you about a new thing the library is doing. We are part of a pilot with 12 libraries in Allegheny County who went fine-free on September 1st. So, thanks, Joe. Thank you. So on the first slide, I know, can you go to the next one, Joe? Okay, so I know one of the first things people think, where did you come up with this idea? This is crazy, because it is. We think libraries, we think fines. The Regional Asset District, of which I'm sure Council is aware, but for everyone else, that is our second largest funder. And they put together, long story short, 2 different consulting projects about 2 years ago to come up with ways to make sure the libraries were as successful and accessible as possible. As high quality as possible. One of the projects that came out of this was called Fine-Free Access for All. And so or removing barriers to access. And so we are piloting this to see if it is possible to do in Allegheny County. It's a small but growing national movement. There is a really great research study out of Colorado, and there's a couple of others as well. And the benefits to participating in the pilot, I spoke with the board, because I wasn't completely sold when I first heard of this. But the benefits of participating in the pilot, one, of course, we have our hand on the wheel. We can kind of do this at whatever pace it works for us. But we also we have the potential for grant funding to cover any losses in the pilot period. So, why go fine free? It's the next one, Joe. It removes barriers to access, creates information for all, which is always our purpose. Fines damage attitudes about and use of the library. Everyone knows, even if it's not you yourself, people who are afraid of or don't like the library. My own mother was always afraid to go to the library. She had 3 kids. She allowed us to take 10 books out each. Her life got busy. 1 week late, $57 or $52. So it adds up. And that was, the books were still being returned. So anyway, that's one example of someone. But there are people who will return books to the book drop and sneak away because they don't understand, all is forgiven. We have our books back. That's what we need. So that is our goal, is to make it as accessible to all as possible, to make it as welcoming to all as possible. But there are concerns on the next slide. I know there are concerns because we had them too. We've done a lot of work on this. Will the books come back? That's the first thing. People are like, well, then they can keep them forever. No, they will still have due dates. They will still need to be returned on that due date. If they will still receive notifications. If they're not received after 6 weeks, which is the same as it is right now, they'll have to pay to replace the material. So they're still responsible for the item. There just will not be a penalty if they bring it back a few days late. And this has been done across the country in several places. One of the big places is Colorado, but Ohio has also dipped their toes into the water. And the results so far have shown that 92% of the materials were returned within 1 week of the due date, whether or not there were fines. So another question we get, how will people learn responsibility? Our mission is to bring information to people, to bring connection to people, to give them opportunities to learn and grow and enrich themselves. So that's not really part of our mission, but they still are responsible for that item. If they don't return it or if it's ruined, they will have to pay for it. And studies have proven that fines do not work. There have been 3 studies over a 15-year period that prove that it is not a successful incentive for getting things back on time. They call it the Blockbuster model instead of the Netflix model, and we know where Blockbuster is. Because Blockbuster would penalize you if you brought it back, even though you're bringing it back. For Netflix, you took it back whenever you wanted, but you wouldn't get another one until you returned that one. So it's the same kind of idea. Another good question, don't you need the money? Of course. I mean, I don't like to look any money, any gift horse in the mouth. But historically, it's been unreliable and shrinking revenue. With ebooks, there are no fines with ebooks. They just disappear on the date they're due. And this fall, we're starting something called automatic renewals. And so as soon as something's due, if nobody else is waiting for it, it's going to be renewed automatically, which means there would be no fine on that anyway. So with that technology, fines were going to decrease even more than the 62% they've decreased since 2011. And for us, it's 1% of our revenue. Other revenue streams have made this a fortuitous time to do this. For the first time in 12 years, the state has increased its library subsidy, which should cover this, and some, I believe. So, and there's an anticipated increase in usage, which in the long run brings in more money, because circulation equals money. And it will save staff time. So, Joe, can you go to the next one? The benefits: increasing usage, building goodwill and positive attitudes, reducing barriers to service for all of our community members. And the feedback, the next slide, Joe. The feedback we've received so far, we've only been doing this for a little over a week. And initially, everybody has the same reaction. What? Why? It's hesitancy because this is not something that you normally hear about. But then once we explain it, it's much more positive. Every person we've talked to so far has left with a positive attitude. We spoke to teachers at FunFest who really loved the idea that this is not going to, kids aren't going to be limited because mom was working, so books came back 4 days late, so now we can't borrow anything else until we have the money to pay that back. We had, in the first week, at least a dozen donations in lieu of fines. My favorite one was the woman who was so excited that she wasn't going to pay her 50-cent fine that she put $2 in the donation box. So that was a very sweet, fun one. There was a family on FunFest who came in. They had not been to the library in months. The woman talked to our head of children's services, and she was, Hope told me she seemed a little bit embarrassed, but she came up to her and she said, "We haven't borrowed anything for a year because I know there are fines on all of our cards. Can you see what the lowest card is so I can maybe pay it off and we can borrow things?" And Hope said, "Well, it's your lucky day. We're going fine free on September 1st. We're going to start that for you today." She burst into tears because she was just so thankful to be able to call it a day. It's not like she had materials of ours out. It was just that those had been late, and so those fines were there, and they're wearing on people. The Baldwin librarian and her board decided, and I really like this, so I'd like to steal it, the library should not be a stressor in anyone's life. And my most recent one, a community member said to a staff member after learning of fine-free pilot, "The library is getting better all the time," which is always what I want to hear and hope that you hear as well. So any questions that I did not answer? Because I know it's a big, different thing.
Council, any questions?
I just want to say good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of work.
Thank you,
Well
Nicole.
done.
Thank
A lot
you.
of work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. Nicole's the director of our library. She's the director of our library. We're going to move into our agenda set, or our Citizens Night meeting right now. I apologize, I should have placed that as a presentation under our agenda, so now we'll get into our residents. So Patty Smith.
I can see you standing up, I can't see you sitting down.
Hi,
Hello, state your name for the record, please.
Patty Smith. I live at 514 Center Road in Monroeville. Lived here over 20 years. And I'm here to discuss the possible sale of the Bel Air pool. And, I mean, we've been going there since my children were little, and, you know, we have a lot of fun there. And I think it's really good for the community and the children and, you know, everyone just to get to know each other. But the one question I have is, I know that the Turnpike is not going to do the road widening project till 2029, if they have the funding at that point. So I'm just wondering if you guys have considered maybe waiting and sell it, you know, in a few years from now. I mean, I'm
Said
sure
no.
they'll still be interested.
He said no.
They said no?
Yeah.
We asked them, they said no.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the reasons was because I go to the representatives meetings from all the boroughs that are affected by the Turnpike.
Yeah.
They have to start engineering on it next year. They can't start engineering on it if they don't own it.
Really? Even though they're not going to actually do it till 2029?
Because of the EPA floodwater mitigation and all that stuff that happens on the sides, they have to do that way before the Turnpike ever comes through.
Okay.
That's what they told me.
Okay, well, you know, that was.
Tried.
Okay, that was my question, so I was
Any other
just
comments,
curious.
Mrs. Smith?
Just it's a shame, you know, it's a shame that, you know, we have to lose it, but, I mean, I guess if we don't sell it, they're gonna take it, so, right, is that what eventually
They
would
could
happen?
take half of it, and it's not.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. Okay, well, that was my question, so, all right, thanks.
David Mintz.
All
right. David Mintz, like you just said. Before I get to the main thing I was just going to mention, I just wanted to, since this is televised and maybe a few more people will hear what I have to say, just today my son goes to Ramsey Elementary, and he was on the bus on the way home, on the way up Haymaker, from the bottom of Haymaker, where the gas station is down there, the long hill going up Haymaker from that end. Anyway, his backpack ended up going out the window of the bus. They're little kids, and I don't know the exact story, but it went out the bus. The bus driver told me, and he got off crying. So I went to look for it, could not find it. And so I just wanted to mention if there's maybe, because I went out immediately when he got home and couldn't find it. So in case there was a good Samaritan who saw it fly out the school bus window and picked it up and doesn't know what to do with it because maybe we don't think his phone number was in there. If you could bring it by to Ramsey School, it's a Lego Batman backpack. If you could bring it by Ramsey School.
Yeah.
So you're saying he had a lot of homework?
Yeah, so he didn't have to do his homework tonight. So it's all gone. So I hope the teacher believes.
Better than a dog ate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
They went out the bus window. So
Color?
that was the first thing. The other thing was back to my normal subject. A few members of Sustainable Monroeville dropped off an updated oil and gas ordinance yesterday, our version of it, to Mr. Little's office, and it's based on the work that Mr. Ratcher did. This is getting close to 2 years ago, along with additional information that wasn't in there based on air quality issues, also some scientific background for setbacks from the University of Maryland. There's a lot of things, so the communities around us that have used, so it's all in there. And I brought copies just in case, but I just want to make sure, did everybody receive a copy of that then? It's the brand new one, and Mr. Ratcher too?
I have it,
Oh, you have it? Okay, so all the council people and Mr. Ratcher.
I've not received it yet, but.
Oh, you haven't?
But
Well-
I'll be getting electronic.
Okay, well,
Oh, I'm sorry, it's in my, I have it. It's underneath here. It's in here, sorry.
okay. And so now that we've submitted that, and it was just yesterday, now that we've submitted it, I'm, I guess, interested in the next step of who I or other people can meet with to talk about it. I'm sure Mr. Ratcher, I mean, you can tell me, but maybe Mr. Ratcher obviously has to look it over, study it, and then could we talk about it so that, once we work out any issues, that it can be advertised as ordinances are and then voted on, since we've been talking about this for several years.
Yeah, I think the first step is absolutely having Mr. Ratcher
Right.
look it over and review it along with staff.
Right.
And maybe at that point, then Mr. Little can perhaps reach back out to you or your representatives and go from there.
Okay.
Probably the best way to do it.
Do you think, like just a timeline, in sometime between now and next, so what are we in? October, so sometime between now and October's meetings, do you think that would be sufficient time for that to happen, and then for us to have a meeting just to talk about it before the next Citizen Night meeting?
Perhaps.
Sound reasonable?
One
or-
thing, Dave, one thing you have to keep in mind, it has to go before the planning commission.
Oh, okay. So what's the procedure? I guess I'm not sure. So what happens? You guys study it, Mr. Ratcher studies it?
Well, yeah, the procedure is, obviously your solicitor has to look at any
Sure.
kind of amendment to any kind of ordinance. And then, as the mayor said, staff and the solicitor look at it.
Right.
And we can talk with you about it, but it has to go before the planning commission. The
Okay.
planning commission has to give their review of it, their recommendation to pass it on with amendments, not amendments, and then it gets to the council's bench, so to speak, and then a public hearing has to be held. All right, and that has to be advertised, we have to have a public hearing, and if there's any amendments, substantial amendments made after that, then usually that doesn't happen,
Right.
but maybe 10% of the time it does. So there is a process to it.
Sure.
Okay.
Is there just as a ballpark, I know maybe it wouldn't be exact, but how long would you think before it would make it to the planning commission? Like, I could attend that. That's a
I
public meeting
would
too,
not
right?
venture to go there.
I mean, like a month or two, or
I would not venture,
Really?
I
Is
would
there
not,
anybody
I
else
couldn't
that-
say, Dave.
is there any way of knowing?
No.
Not at all.
I just received the document.
Okay.
I didn't even read it over at all yet, so it needs to
Okay.
be reviewed. We're getting into budget season, so there's some
Sure.
challenges
Okay,
with
but the
that.
process at least is
It's here,
will be-
and we're going to get,
Yeah,
we're going to start it.
it's moving. Okay, all right. Everybody has a copy. I had more if anybody needed, did anybody want another one, or for anybody else, it's staff?
We
That-
have
Oh, it's staff
we
that
have 'em,
needs
yeah.
it and have it? Okay, all right, thank you.
Georgiana Woodhull.
Good
Find a
evening.
backpack in your yard this morning?
I'm going to look on my way home. I was here in April 2nd and also on the 9th, and I submitted on April the 12th to Mr. Little for the MS4 appeal. And so I'm requesting an appeal of the manager's denial to the appeal board as per our discussion at the April 2nd Citizens Night and April 9th council meeting. I'm requesting a copy of the board's rules prior to a hearing and a tip sheet. I never received anything back, so I placed a call to Mr. Little about a month ago out of concern because I didn't hear anything and I wanted to be prepared for the hearing. And the message kind of indicated, Mr. Little said, quote, "If indeed, we will get back to you if indeed it is warranted." And that kind of left me with the feeling like, is there not going to be a hearing? In that same message, Mr. Little stated that they were setting up a second appeal board. My question is, what happened to the first appeal board, or are you setting up a second appeal board because there were so many appeals that you need a second appeal board?
Georgiana, we do have a couple left that they have to be heard by the appeals board, and we do have to schedule that. So if you're included in that, we'll notify you.
Well, I guess my question is, I was led to believe, because I asked, I said, I'd like to know how to prepare for the hearing. You know, because when I went to the county for the reassessment, I had an attorney and I had an appraiser with me, and they were recorded. And from your message, it almost sounded like I would not be. And I said one of the reasons that I called was because I wanted to make sure that I had the information that I was going to be presenting at a hearing. But I was left after this message feeling like that I wasn't going to be part of that hearing.
I'd have to take a look at the information. That's been, what, 5 months ago? I got to take a look at it. Paul Hugus and myself, and
Now, what I'm asking is, am I going to have a hearing scheduled that I will be present at?
I can't tell you that right now, Georgiana. I'd have to take a look at it.
Now,
I know
have
you appealed, I know that.
Now, have the other appeals, because I know at the time
We
there was
did have
about
an- yeah, we had an
80
appeal.
there were about 80
That was back
appeals.
in March, I think, April. I can't remember.
Okay, were other appeal hearings already held?
Yes,
And were there people present there?
yes.
Okay, then I will expect to have a scheduled hearing.
I can't guarantee that, but we do have some other ones, one or two or three that have to be heard.
Can you take a look at that and give her a call,
Yeah.
Georgiana? Let him take a look and
Yeah,
reach
because
back out to you.
actually, the information that I submitted was not what I would be discussing at an appeal.
Right.
I mean, it was very little information
Let him
because
see
I
if-
was on a
see if you're-
deadline.
See if you're on the list or not, and we'll start with that, because I don't have an answer for you, but
Yeah, we
Mr.
have,
Little can
we
take a
have
look
other ones we have.
for you.
I know one of I can think of off the top of my head, other than what you're talking about, has to be heard. And there might be another one, I don't know, three at the most.
Okay. All right, then I'll just sit tight and wait to hear from you. Thank you.
Tony Pacusa.
Good evening. My name is Tony Pacusa. I am a resident. I did have two items I wanted to speak of tonight, but Mr. Mayor, you and I spoke earlier, so the one's good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Second item I wanted to talk about was the housing development for the Maple Crest Golf Course. And I didn't see anything when it came through Planning Commission that I recall. Is there any stipulations or anything that we have that require them to sort of keep the construction entrance clean of mud, debris, anything like that? I don't know if that's maybe a question for Mr. Hugus or Mr. Wilden. The reason I ask is, you know, after rains and stuff, the trucks going in and out, there's mud all over Logan's Ferry Road, which may not be an issue now, but if that's through the wintertime, that mud freezes and everything on that hill, and also the gravel that's used is out into both lanes of Logan's Ferry, and I've seen motorcycles swerve around into the other lanes and cars and whatnot at kicking stone. I just was curious if there's anything that we...
They're
as-
definitely responsible to keep that entrance clear,
Okay.
especially Logan Ferry Road.
Yeah.
The water and mud that's coming down now should not be an issue once winter gets here. They intend to pave that road this fall.
Prior to.
So once the inlets and storm system get put in, hopefully that entrance in Logan's Ferry Road will be a non-issue.
Okay. That was my only questions. I've had a few people reach out to me and ask about it as well, and I've noticed it coming off the intersection every day, so.
We could have code enforcement kind of keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be fantastic.
And you have my number. If there's a problem, give me a call. We'll send somebody out there.
Okay.
They've been very responsive. Anytime we've called, they've responded to whatever
Yeah.
we've requested.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I think we have a very important announcement
Yes.
here, actually.
With the
Sorry, I would
background?
interrupt the
Breaking
meeting.
Monroeville news is that David Mintz, a Monroeville resident, breaking news is that a Good Samaritan did see the backpack on the street or maybe fly out the bus window, called the police. One of the policemen has it in his car right now. He's not here, so I just gave my address, and they're going to bring it by later.
Yay!
So thank you. He saw me
Thank you,
talking here
that's
from
great.
downstairs. So.
Breaking
Fantastic.
news, breaking
Officer
news.
grabbed him.
There are a lot of good
Dave,
people.
we were a little concerned when the police
A
called
lot of
you
good
out of the
people
meeting,
in
David.
it.
Yeah,
Just a little
Take that
concerned.
back when you get it.
that's funny.
Fantastic.
Good
So
stuff.
big thanks to the resident who called in. Candace Bruno.
Good evening. Candace Bruno. I am a resident of Monroeville, and I have some questions about the sale of the Bel Air pool. The last time that we were all together, and I believe it was July, you said that we were going to take a break and go and see if we could do some homework and to ask some questions. So I just have some questions that I was looking answers for. So have you reached out to the Monroeville pool community members, not just the swim team, but the actual people that go to the pool to get their input? I know that it was stated that you were going to reach out to them to get input. Was anybody contacted?
We're working on a survey right now.
Okay.
So we go to all the members.
Okay, so when will we get that before any other decisions are made?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Have you had any discussions on where to home the programs that are going to be displaced if we do, in fact, lose our only community pool, public community pool, that are going to be displaced? We have Camp Chippewa that goes there and has been going there for over 20 years, the Parks and Rec Touch the Earth Camp, and the Parks and Rec So Long Summer Camp. Is there a plan for where to house those programs if we lose our pool?
Yes.
That's,
Candace, let's do this. Yes, and I'll answer your questions.
okay.
Do you want to run through all your questions and your
Sure.
comments, and then that way we
Absolutely.
can get them all out there, and then we can answer them? That
Sure,
way we're
that's
not
great.
repeating things.
So last time we were here, you said, or Mr. Duncan said that there was an estimate to rebuild a pool, and that estimate was for approximately $4.2 million. Just, does that $4.2 million include buying land? Because that seemed like a lot of money. So that would be built on land.
Monroeville Park.
Oh, gotcha, thank you. So is that a company that comes in and builds the pool, or is that for materials and labor? Are there ways, what I'm asking, are there ways to bring that $4.2 million down? We have municipal workers or Parks and Rec people that can dig holes and can lay,
Not that kind of project.
okay,
No, that's
No.
way too
Keep
big.
going with the question.
okay, 'cause
Okay.
when the pool was originally built, I thought it was built by the Parks and Rec. It was not.
It's privately owned.
Privately owned.
It was a privately owned pool, and was it refaced and redone by Parks and Rec, or the municipality was given the pool, or the municipality purchased the pool?
That was given to the
It was
municipality.
given to the municipality, okay.
1976.
So the municipality is going to sell something that was given to them? Okay, gotcha. So, are there any ways to cut those costs down? No. It's $4.2 million.
It probably would be more than that, but it's an
But
estimate.
that was the estimate.
Yeah,
Right.
it's only an estimate.
And are there any other ways to get other estimates? I know if you do projects, I had my walkway redone and I got a couple estimates done, and I went with the best estimate. So that's just another question. When I spoke, when I gave my little speech about the pool, I asked, are there any ways that we could reach out to the community? We have Forbes, we have UPMC. Is there any way that we can go to a partnership with those? I know UPMC gives money to the school board or to the school district. Is there any way that we can get money to rebuild what is being taken away from us? My fear, and I know we do have privately owned community pools in our neighborhoods. My concern is, and Mrs. Gatos, you said that those pools were hurting. If those pools are hurting so much, and we close our pool and we don't replace it, and one of those pools has some type of catastrophic problem, are they going to be able to fix those problems, or will those pools close? My concern is that Monroeville will become a community without a pool. And if we want people to come here, a selling point is a community pool. Those were just some questions and some thoughts I had, and I would love to hear input or answers on those things.
Yes, well, the committee has met with all the private pools. We've had a collective meeting. In that meeting, we're trying to figure out what options there are as far as like the camps and the programs that Monroeville runs there. We're going to we can find a home. There's some reception from the pools that they could take that over possibly. That is also not only the 4 neighborhood pools, but also the JCC off of Rosecrest. So that is something that's definitely being considered as we move through everything. As far as the Bel Air, the swim team, they did meet with the JCC representatives.
I was told that, yes.
And as far as a new pool, as far as a new estimate, certainly I think you could probably always get other estimates on projects. And if there is enough groundswell desire to build a new pool through the community and through the Parks and Recreation Department and the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board, that's something that could be considered down the road, absolutely.
So
But as far as Public Works doing anything, they wouldn't be able to construct a pool.
Okay. Just refacing basketball courts and things like that. That's
Well,
what
we outsource
you
that
outsource
as well.
those
Yeah,
too?
absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you reach out to, one more question, I'm sorry. Did you reach out to the private pools to discuss lowering their membership rates to accommodate more of the public? Because the membership rates for my family of 3 is $189. I do the early bird fee every year. And when I was looking at the average cost of the pool, of the other 4 pools, is $360. Is there any way that, what can be done about that, if anything? Because that's going to put swimming out of reach for a lot of families in Monroeville.
Well, I don't think the average is $360, but I think the highest is $330.
It was an average, and I did
The highest is $330,
I did put into if you do not do their volunteer fees, because as a member of Bel Air Pool, I don't have to paint the pool.
Right, but the community pools, there's really nothing off the table. They're interested in considering multiple options.
All of them?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
were all there, yeah.
Good. Okay.
They were all
We had a
there.
very, nice meeting, long meeting.
Okay.
Probably have a second meeting scheduled with them here shortly.
Okay.
But no, a lot of things were discussed and nothing was, like I said,
They're more than willing to help us out.
yes, that's the best way to put it.
They all have charters that have their rules stated.
We went over that.
Oh, okay. Well, these
Yes,
are things
ma'am.
that we didn't know.
In short, just to back up a little bit, in short,
Okay.
to see if I can summarize that part of the meeting. Number one, absolutely cooperative. The groups were.
Okay.
More frank than we ever anticipated.
Good.
Just has to, terrific cooperation. Can't complain about that. Open and willingness to move forward to what they want to do. First on their list, close the pool. End of season, get the end of season done. And I have a sense that they're also beginning to then cooperate and discuss things a little bit more too. Okay, so all very positive moving forward. Many of the same types of questions. Now, you asked some very specific with this, that I'm not sure that we're there yet with it.
Okay.
But the conversations are absolutely there to do that.
Okay.
I left feeling very positive about it,
Okay.
and the willingness of that group to do that. They came with probably way more information than we ever even thought of. We wanted to hear about their organizations. We listened, they talked.
Okay.
Okay, to
right,
do
thank you.
that too. So it was really positive in what they want to do. And we started that meeting off with, we're going to meet again. And they all said, yeah, absolutely
Okay.
too. So it's not finished, but we have to get through the swimming season that's done. And, it's.
Oh, you had to get through there. They had to close
They
their
had
pool.
to.
Everybody had to close.
Gotcha,
I'm
because their
sorry, I
boards
didn't
are busy,
complete it.
too.
Thank you, Linda, too. Yes, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that too, yeah. They're like, okay, great, talk. Let us get through Labor Day and,
Gotcha.
close the pools and get our things back in place.
Gotcha. It's just as a member of the Bel Air Pool family, because I feel like we are a family, it was just this turmoil because we didn't know it's up in the air. So I appreciate the answers to the
Candace,
questions.
one point on the, I'm having a spreadsheet put together of all the information that we garnered from that meeting with respect to fees, do they have a snack, the revenues, all that, getting a spreadsheet. So if you want to call my office, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next
Gotcha.
week sometime.
Okay.
And I'll be able to tell you what the different fees are that they gave to us at the meeting. And
What they are right now.
Yeah, what they are right now.
Right, because this has been my summer project. Gateway Heights was $299 plus their volunteer fees. Haymaker was $289 plus a $60 volunteer fee. Park Swim Club was $339, and Garden City was $300 and then $10 volunteer fee. So I did an average, so it would be $349.
Understand, all those fees are in
Volunteer
discussion.
fee.
Gotcha.
Maintenance is in discussion.
Okay.
Things that we can do for them are in discussion to lower that. We're not there yet.
I understand. I just want us to have a plan before we sell the pool.
That's what we're working on.
And, yeah, that's
Gotcha.
working. And one last question for you, too.
Okay.
So, a challenge we had has been the Bel Air community, those pools, that information that was to. So this week, Mr. Little and Parks and Recs and those guys, because it's not the same as the clubs and the associations, there is a piece, too. So we understand that. So one of the things that we don't want to do is neglect getting in contact with you folks to get your opinion on some of those key types of issues.
Okay.
So we've got that information back there, and we're pulling on that now to reach out to you, probably electronically.
Okay.
To do it. So, give me now the house from your research and input. What are the 5 most important things that you identify as being part of being in Bel Air?
Our pool is handicap accessible. Some of the other pools, if you've ever been to any of the other pools,
We've been to all of them.
okay, so the one pool, because my son swims on the swim team for the Barracudas, we traveled and it was downhill, like
understand.
steep.
Yeah, okay, right,
So
that's right.
it is handicap accessible for everyone. The fact that they have a daily rate where you can just go. You don't have to, if you don't have the $189, like my family does, and you want to swim when it's 90 degrees, you can. So being open to having pay-as-you-go membership. The grounds are just beautiful. If you sit in the chair, or if you sit in your chair and look, the trees are, it's peaceful. You don't know that Bel Air is
Much
there.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can't do much about that.
No, I know, but that, you asked what makes Bel Air.
The 5
Or what are
most
the
important
what
things
what
to you.
we want?
Things most
Things that I
important to
want.
you
Okay.
about,
I'm sorry.
not want,
I'm
things that are most
sorry.
important.
Okay,
This after
so
this.
Yeah.
accessible, parking, easy entrance to the pool. We have a lot of people who can't go up and down pool ladders. I broke both of my legs, so I have a hard time going up and down a normal pool ladder. So easy entrance in and out of the pool. Concessions, concession stands, thank you, and reasonably priced.
Okay.
Okay,
There you
thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reasonably.
Point of, Candace, a point of comment that you made. Now, I'm not a native of Monroeville.
Oh, neither. I'm a
I wasn't
transplant.
here when the pool was, but I did have a conversation with my predecessor, Marshall Bond, about the pool possibly being sold, going back 3-4 months ago. And he did mention the pool was purchased. Now, with that being said, my understanding also as a former council member, I think Spann, Miles Spann, I think it was his name, he was instrumental in getting a grant for purchasing the pool.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my understanding. I don't believe the pool was given. Now, I have no empirical evidence to that.
Gotcha.
But I don't believe it
Okay.
was given to the municipality.
And there are still grants out there, because I know that swimming, there's such a discrepancy amongst people that swim because there's barriers to swimming. And there are places out there that can get you grants for swimming. That's another place, if building a pool is an option, which I really hope that it is, there are grants out there too. So maybe that's something that we can look into also. Thank you.
Candace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
Kept you up
appreciate.
here longer than 5 minutes.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
No, it's not you. I mean, Mr.
Appreciate
Poach
it.
put you on the spot. You came up
Yeah.
with 7 things, actually, not 5, so
Absolutely,
great
that's
job.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Kalnicki.
I'm Justin Kalnicki, my wife Jennifer. We spoke to you guys last month. We are the ones that are homeless on Woodhaven. We had asked you guys to try taking a look into water issues, sewer issues, and we haven't heard a word about anything, which was another one of the things that we asked is more communication. So has anything been done for the Woodhaven corridor area? Has
Any updates, Mr. Little, Mr. Hugus, any updates?
My understanding is you spoke with Jamie Story this week. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, no, wrong person. I was thinking about somebody else. Okay. There's 2 access points to the drainage system, both from Logan's Ferry Road. They're sort of parallel pipes that convene into one pipe, but ultimately they go from Logan's Ferry Road and terminate near the dog stop on the William Penn Highway. Both of those lines were visually inspected the entire length. There was no obstructions. There was nothing in there that showed us that there was any problems with it. It looked to be that it was surface water. In other words, the water couldn't get into the pipes because of debris or whatever was blocking the system. So it was water going over top of the pipes, not in the pipes. But the pipes are working fine.
Okay. How about sewer?
That's the municipal water authority.
Yeah, the municipal authority has been, all this information has been given to them. My understanding is that they had spoken to you.
Nope. Have not heard a single word
When you guys
from
came to
anybody.
the meeting last month,
Yeah.
they had received a letter. Someone printed out a letter and said it was from the Water Authority, and it was not, telling them to come to the Water Authority meeting. Somebody printed out and stuck it in all these people's mailboxes, which was an atrocious thing to do, by the way, whoever did that out there.
Really? Gee.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of people came, and they brought their baby out and everything. It was awful. And so, like I say, whoever did that, shame on you. You guys have been through enough. But I did not know, and that would have been your time to talk to them about the sewage, the sewer lines. We don't do those.
I've had contact with the municipal authority on several occasions on this issue, and in an attempt, because we promised you a community meeting, it's still going to happen, neighborhood meeting, whatever you want to call it. And the people involved to be able to factually answer your questions are still gathering data, counting one of our engineering firms. So that is still going to happen. I want to tell you that and assure you that right now. The only reason why it hasn't happened yet, and I was just talking to Mr. Little today about getting the letter sent out to the residents, is we have
Page 2.
2 people, I think, that have to give us firm dates. So, because we have to get all these people together on the same date. And sometimes that's a project. But either way, assured that that meeting is still going to happen. It's going to allow you to come up and ask questions, and hopefully the presentation they make will answer most of that. Okay? So I did receive an email from the director of the municipal authority. He sent me drawings of the stormwater lines and the sanitary sewer lines. Matter of fact, the red one that comes down through your corner of your property when I was there visiting, because it was the first one I looked for. And so for me to sit here and describe to you what they've saw and what they did, I cannot do that. I think they're gathering that data for the meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry it's taken so long, but getting all the appropriate people together.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was, did we miss that?
No, you did not.
Of the communications.
You did not.
Okay.
Still going to happen.
All right. The other question is, an engineer from Monroeville, is it possible to get in touch with a structural engineer? Do you guys have recommendations of structural engineers?
I mean, we could give you a recommendation, we do not have one on staff.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else? All right. That was all.
Call Mr. Hugeson.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
My number's
Thank
on the
you.
website if you need it.
Ross Magro.
How's everybody this evening?
State your name for the record, please.
My name is Ross Magro. I'm here for 2 reasons. One of them I see is already on the agenda, which was the easement onto Alpine Village. The other thing was simply to show the drawing for the new driveway and say that I've already sourced the pipe and the material for the driveway. So as soon as we get permission to start, I can get it done. So that's really about it. I just wanted to make sure there was a motion to authorize the advertisement for the easement and to show everybody my plans for the driveways. And
Has council done everything he needs?
Mr. Wild and myself met with him and his wife, talked about this. Paul went out to the site, met with him at the site also. There doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary here, just a matter of getting the easement in place.
Do we need to vote on this again? Or?
I'm sorry?
We do.
To advertise.
Yeah, there's a motion to advertise the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the easement is an ordinance, which takes a month of advertising, and then we'll.
Correct.
So then it could be passed next month, and you would still have plenty of time
Is it on the agenda
Let's
for
hope.
Tuesday?
for weather.
Well, I'm
To
trying to
advertise.
get everything set up, so
Yeah.
whereas as soon as I get
You
permission,
can
I
go
can
and
get
have it done before the weather
wintertime,
hits.
so-
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Moving as fast as we can.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
But no, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I just
Good
wanted
luck.
to make sure you guys know that I'm doing my part and, you know,
We'll do
I'm
ours.
getting everything in order. So thank you very much.
Ross, thank you. Eliza Beck? Good boy.
Alyssa Beck, Monroeville, and I brought some props tonight. I brought a black walnut from my backyard, and I brought a nutcracker. So these black walnuts are really hard nuts to crack. And there's just so many issues that I would like to talk about tonight. They're all hard nuts to crack. And so I'm going to offer this at the end of my 5 minutes, and I'm going to offer that you can help us find a way to crack this nut open. Let's see, where to start. I've been asking, or somebody's been asking, I don't think it was me last month because I wasn't here, who owns the mineral rights under the pool? And the last I heard, I watched the last meeting last month, I couldn't be here. The last I heard is that we don't know. I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again. My understanding, because I've kind of managed Sustainable Monroeville for a decade, people call me about different things. And somebody called me and told me that the property across the turnpike, that's kind of parallel property to where the Monroeville Municipal Pool sits, is also owned by the municipality of Monroeville. So one question I have is, why isn't the turnpike using the property across the turnpike? Why are they using or wanting to use potentially the property where our municipal pool sits? I have just the idea, and it's partially come to me because of all of these amazing people who have this great community called the Monroeville Municipal Pool, that maybe there's another reason that property is being sought after. And that reason could potentially be, and I'm making this story up because we don't really know the facts, that that property would be really good for a compressor station because the property sits 4/10 of a mile from a proposed fracking well pad right over into Westmoreland County. I think it's critical before we make any action on selling that property that we know exactly who owns the gas rights under that property. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Why does the ordinance that Dave Mintz just brought up here that we've been trying to have you consider for 2 years, why does it have to go before the Planning Commission? I guess I'll ask all my questions first, if you want me to. Who among the council will be sponsoring this ordinance that is protective of the Monroeville citizens? An ordinance similar to what Churchill has established years ago, Forest Hills, many other surrounding communities. What is the sticking point here? This is all unspoken, but because it has not been considered in a timely fashion, there is something very clear to me that's being revealed, because I travel from community to community. There is perhaps particularly a reason that this is not being considered in a timely fashion. It's just food for thought for the residents who are here concerned about being homeless, concern for the people that are here that want to retain a community pool that they rightfully belongs to them with their tax dollars. Mr. Harvey, I have a question for you. The flooding meeting, will it be open to the whole community?
It will be open to everybody, but the letters of invite are only going out to Logan's Ferry Road and the residents off Logan's Ferry Road.
When you set that date, could you publish it widely so that those of us that are interested in being there can know what the date is, if we don't know somebody?
It'll be on our website, I'm sure.
You put it on the calendar.
Okay. I went to a meeting that I was invited to in Churchill. They had a flooding meeting because the stories that are happening here are happening everywhere. They opened it to the community. They had the municipal attorney there, the president of council, and there were somebody from Three Rivers Wet Weather Program was there. They answered a lot of questions that the passionate community members of Churchill were asking. It was a really important meeting. I couldn't speak because I'm not a Churchill member of the community, but I think that just offering it to the whole community could be a really useful kind of informational
But
thing.
I'm not what I want to solve is the problems of Logan's Ferry.
Okay, so the last thing that I'll say is that I just want to make an appeal in the budget for a sustainability manager to be part of the staff of the municipality of Monroeville. The municipality or the borough of Forest Hills has a new borough building, and I visited there. It's 2 years old. They have put bioswales rain gardens into the parking lot. They've positioned the building south-facing, and they have solar panels covering that part of the rooftop. It's a zero net energy building, so they don't need to pay any money for energy. I'm just wishing and hoping that you'll put money in. I asked for this last year. I don't know if you've already put it in the budget, if you've looked into it, Mr. Little. But the idea that my council people have plastic water bottles that they are displaying during council meetings is extremely disturbing to me. The petrochemical plant that's going in a half hour north of Pittsburgh, the fracking infrastructure that's at our door, we are the eastern front of a war that's happening, is to make nurdles. They are little plastic pellets about a quarter of this size that make plastic water bottles that wind up in the ocean. And I've held off mentioning that publicly, but I would like to challenge you to bring your own water bottle made out of a reusable, renewable resource and demonstrate to the public how that's possible. Thank you.
Debbie Becker.
I'm right here, I think between Candace and Patty's at the moment. You've answered everything.
Now, the listening audience probably can't hear that, but Ms. Becker basically is in favor of the other pool comments from earlier, correct? So you're here to support everyone. Okay, very good. We understand your position. Thank you. There's no one else signed up, but would anyone else like to address council on any municipal item?
I guess I forgot to stay up here for the answers to my questions.
Well, we're to close that portion, but I will answer your questions after we get through everybody. Anyone else like to address council on any municipal item?
Sorry, I meant to sign in.
You can sign in right in front of you. State your name for the record.
Brian Susko, Turnpike Gardens. So I understand this is, a preview of putting the ordinance out and all that, and really, perhaps, other details can come out at different times, but I actually had the same question as Dr. Beck earlier, and I can put this here, and I'm guessing. So the question that I had really was, did Monroeville, so this is Bel Air Pool here, so if I use a pen, so this is Bel Air Pool here, and unfortunately I used a black marker, but like the outline here is the parcel that we're selling. And across the turnpike, Monroeville owns this land, and between the turnpike, between the roads here, the turnpike owns that. So did Monroeville offer this part of the land and not to say?
They didn't, we're not the ones selling. They have made the offer. They said, this is the piece of land we want.
Understood, but as Monroeville, could we have said, we would rather sell you this land because we don't have an asset on it?
Absolutely.
Why couldn't we offer a land free of assets?
Because apparently the way they're routing the turnpike, I would guess and assume that piece of land is the way they want to route the turnpike.
Yeah, it's.
They don't take occupied property if they don't have to.
Yeah, understood. And from a non-civil engineering, like taking that land actually straightens the road. So I guess the question is, did we try to offer non-assetted land? And could we say, we have more land on the other side that is not.
They know.
So did we try to offer that land?
They know who owns that land all the way along the turnpike.
But did Monroeville say, hey, we have land without an asset on it, would you consider buying this?
What I'm trying to tell you is they know.
I mean, it's, once again, it's just a
The
question.
meetings I
I
go
understand
to,
there's a
they
thousand
know.
other things behind
They
it.
know who owns every piece of property along.
I understand that they know, but did us as Monroeville say, we have land without a pool on it, do you think you might want to take this?
We can ask them.
Okay,
We can reach out.
that's fine. That was really the question I had here. And then just a couple other follow-ups. It sounds like, and without knowing the full story of what the plan is, you've reached out to the polls, and at the same time, the council meeting after the last time we talked about this was full of people losing their homes to water and having issues and having real problems. So, we appreciate the time that you're spending on this, and we realize in the grand scheme of life, this may not be one of those things. So I'm actually here to offer if there's something we could do, as in, can I reach out to the DCNR and speak about grants? Can I reach out to UPMC and Highmark to help the process, to work as the community for the community, to allow you to spend some time on different things? If this is kind of, once again, in the grand scheme of things, is this something that we could do to help out?
Here's the problem I see. This is I see that.
Sure, absolutely.
There could be 30 people calling them about, and we wouldn't have any control over it. I would recommend you don't, okay? Eric is the head of the committee. He knows all those people. He knows the higher echelon.
Okay.
When we get to that level, maybe he gets some community members involved and you start going that route. But if you say yes, you could actually have 50 people calling up there.
Completely understand, and I don't want to turn this into the wild west.
No,
I'm
and
just
I don't want
offering
to
my
turn,
services
I don't
if
want to
possible.
turn it into a sour issue in their mouths either.
Absolutely. So I guess the follow-up question finally is reaching out to these folks and looking at a possible replacement and funding for that on the table that we're looking at right now? Because it sounds like we're talking the private pools, but are we also looking for the replacement option and seeing what options we have for there?
Step one first.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm not trying to belay, but we're really
No,
trying to
I'm just trying to get information for
Sure.
like the actual ordinance and
in a way,
information as
in
we go
asking
through.
in answer to your question, is there something you can do? You're doing it right now.
Okay.
So that's, that's helpful. Providing
Okay.
that information, that feedback, more people have the conversation. How do we reach out to everyone and keep getting the information back on it? So thank
Okay.
you for that. That's been helpful.
I appreciate that. And once again, I guess I can kind of leave that offer on the table. Us as the community, including myself, we'd like to help where
Sure.
possible without, coming up here and grilling you every time we get up here.
No, you're right, but look for
we're
the
just
survey
trying
that we'll be
to-
sending out soon. You're a pool member, I'm assuming, that we would have your contact information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
Okay.
think if we keep it organized, we'll get further.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess leading up to the ordinance and then the actual, the voting meeting, would we expect to have communications with the turnpike by then about the other side of the turnpike? Like the land on the other side of the turnpike
Yeah, I
possibly
think we
being
could,
for
I think
sale?
we make a call before that,
Okay.
certainly.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. to sign in and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Julio Estremera, and I'm Alpine Village resident. And I just want to state that Brian mentioned something, I think we're on the same wavelength with regards to Bel Air Pool, but my questions or comments are concerning the committee and you know, the due diligence that they're doing with regards to, you know, meeting with the private pools and everything. And as he mentioned, I hope that there's some serious consideration being given to the relocation of the pool. And I hope that that's an option when you guys, you know, look at alternatives for the community pool. I mean, I know there's been some discussion with the private pools, some discussions with the JCC, but is there serious consideration being given to relocating the pool on some of the land that Monroeville has? I think they have, I think Monroeville, the municipality has a little bit of land out there, you know, in parks. The Monroeville Community Park. There's several parks located throughout all of Monroeville. So I hope that, you know, there's some option out there that perhaps, you know, relocating the pool to one of these parks, perhaps Heritage Park, that's an area. And I guess my suggestion, you know, when looking at relocating the pool is developing, you know, looking at, you know, a plan as far as relocating that pool, not necessarily doing it all at one time, you know. Obviously, you know, using the money from the sale of the pool, pursuing grants, maybe a slight increase in memberships, you know, sponsorships from businesses, local businesses in the community, and then going through and following, setting up a 5 or 8 or a 10-year plan where the first step would be obviously the pool. You know, you're at a park where there's facilities there already, there's running water, so those are some of the things that wouldn't be needed. You know, you could expand on that later on. So you kind of develop a 5 or 8 year plan where each year some amenity gets added to this pool. You know, we don't need to have, you know, the Taj Mahal all at one time at one location. So I mean, I guess my main point is that I hope that, you know, what's happening with the committee is that this is a serious, this is being considered seriously, and not just where can we piece out the Bel Air Barracudas, where can we piece out the programs, where can we get a couple of the private pools to say, hey, we'll take on some of the community members. You know, I'm hoping that this is an option out there. And, you know, and I know that, you know, as Eric Poach as the head of the committee, you know, if there is something that we can do, you know, I know there's quite a few members that would be willing to help and go out and solicit, you know, funding and pursue these grants and sponsorships out there. It just seems to me, you know, from what I've seen so far that the municipality really isn't looking for a replacement. And you know, I think we've heard at previous meetings that, you know, rumor has it that Monroeville is looking to get out of the pool business. And, you know, as we proceed and hear some of the things that are transpiring, that have transpired, it seems to lean towards that way. Like, we're really not interested. We're kind of interested in just, you know, selling this pool off. Not even sure, you know, I don't think there's been any discussion about what's actually going to happen with the funding once, you know, once that sale goes through, you know, and just hoping that that funding stays and goes towards the relocation of a pool. And I guess I have a couple more questions. Is there any documentation citing the Turnpike's refusal to allow the municipality to hold on to the pool for more than beyond, you know, this upcoming season? You know, the conclusion, the season has already ended. Has it been documented? You know, is there a letter stating, hey, if you don't sign the paperwork, you know, then that's off the table, and we're just going to, you know, retrieve it. We're going to take it. And if that is the case, how long? And if Monroeville says, you know, we're not ready to sell, and the Turnpike says, all right, well, we'll just take it, how long would that actual process take place? How long is it for that for
Their
them
offer
to seize it.
comes off the
I mean,
table January 1st.
yeah, so January 1st, are they going to come in with their bulldozers and take over the land? That's what I, like, what happens if that offer's off the table, Monroeville declines to sell it just now, and then the Turnpike says we're going to retrieve it, by eminent domain? How long of the process is that? And lastly, I just have a scenario, so as of today, looking forward, where will a family of 5 that's not able to go to a private pool be able to swim next year, July 14th, 2020, when it's 90 degrees outside with a heat index of 110 degrees at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon? But that's all I have. So, thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council? You just sign in and state your name for the record.
My name is Marion Gardner, and I live over on Woodhaven Drive, and I was here last month, and I did hear when Justin, my neighbor, because we're the ones that have them living with us since their home, that happened to their home, about the water and how people have been out and how they have checked the drainage and everything was okay. So my one question is, are the pipes not big enough? Because like I stressed last month, the catastrophic rain we had on July 21st, we had a lake in the backyard, but on normal rains, we'll have water coming up out of the pipe, shooting up out of the manholes. And we'll have a, pond back there. And when we don't have rain, I have a swamp back there. So the water's coming from somewhere. And I know you asked, do I know where it's coming from? I've been watching, and I had pictures the last time, I didn't bring them tonight, where you can see water running down from the yards between Woodhaven and Pineview. So are we have drainage coming from somewhere that wasn't there before?
Water runs downhill. I don't know what
But
to
I
say
mean,
to you.
why, this, like I stated before, this house and this property, my grandparents were one of the first ones that owned and built on Woodhaven Drive. So this has been in the family since the late 40s. No one's ever lived there but my grandparents or my parents and now my sister and I. 2011 was the first I noticed a water issue where it was getting moist back there. It has gotten worse every year. The area has gotten bigger every year. And we've had you here over at our house. They've tested the water. Nobody's ever gets back to us. I asked for direction on what to do, where to go.
Well, it's probably all the development in the area, not only for Monroeville, but even in Plum. And that's probably where the change in the runoff has been over the years.
Plumbing is out there in the sewer world that would have handled that rain.
I understand that. That's why I wanted you to understand. Those pictures I had were not from that rainstorm on July 21st.
No, I realize.
That was from another rain. I mean, that was just another rain that we had.
Backyard. And I was there, as you said, with Mr. Hizzy from the Water Municipal, who opened that drain up, and it was clear.
We're even getting like, it almost looks, it's either the pipe lining or paper products that come out when it gushes out over that manhole, and we can't even cut the grass back there. And
I know,
and even with the house, it's getting closer to the house. The area is getting a lot bigger. And what my sister and I've had to deal with this summer is, new gutters. We're trying to do what we can to keep water from getting into the house. We have a contract for somebody to come and waterproof the basement. That's going to be another $8,000. And it's,
But I'm saying, I
we
don't
couldn't sell
know.
the house with it like that.
Doesn't seem to me that the development above your hillside there has changed since you've been there. I think it's an older neighborhood also. I don't know what could be coming down there and causing your problem. I don't know. I've had people look, and some of them did it while you were standing there.
We've also had record amount of rain over the past 2 years as well.
Yeah, but this started like around 2011.
When
I
did-
was cutting the grass back
Oh, when
then.
did
I
they
got
put
my
that
mower
new
stuck back
sewer
down there a couple of times.
So 2008?
I'm sorry,
When did they put the new sewer line in there? In 2008?
which sewer line do you speak of?
On Woodhaven, the stormwater sewer.
Yeah, that was about 2008. And the large pipe was put in 1984.
84.
And that pipe there was no blockage. It was functioning as it was designed to.
I mean, I'm hoping that the meeting you're talking about, that somebody can give us some answers on,
As to where it's coming from?
and what to do about it.
Yeah, well, hopefully, we'll see.
Because this is, I mean, my regret is you met my mom too. I mean, she's
did.
the one that threatened to call Marty on KDKA that time. She passed away New Year's Eve, and I feel really bad that this bothered her up until the end. I mean, that she's not seen any resolution on this.
Well, Mr. Harvey's going to get that meeting scheduled with that region, that neighborhood, and we're going to go over things in depth at that time
Okay.
when they have all the information.
Yes, I want to be off so I can be there. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council?
Do you have to come up and
Come
sign
on
in?
up. You sign in and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Marie Bainbridge. I'm also involved in the flooding on Woodhaven Drive. That just cost me $4,000 today to try to get some of the water away from my house, too. What I don't understand is, I thought Monroeville Works used to, like, come and, like, empty the, like, change the source, clean all that stuff out, and
The storm drains, they do.
Do they still do that? Really?
Well, the MS work group is doing it now.
Okay,
It's doing the stormwater.
all right.
Municipal authority does the sanitary.
All right, do they do that, like, on a routine basis?
I would defer to Mr. Hugus on that.
'Cause
We
it's-
do, but you have to understand that the pipe in question, there was a person that actually walked through it to make sure that it was functioning properly. You know, so there was no discussion of there was blockage, or there was, if there was a broken piece of pipe, or the pipe came apart, it's functioning as it was when it was installed.
We didn't send a camera down there, a person.
Literally walk through it.
Really? It just seems so unbelievable to me that nothing can be done, you know? It's just, that's why I was
We're
here.
not there yet, but it's, hopefully, see what the engineers have to say when,
Yeah, do they have like an earth engineer that can like see why the earth is, maybe the earth is shifting or something back there that's causing all the problems? I don't know, I'm just guessing.
you and me both. Nothing would please me more than to be able to come up with the solution.
Marie, that's what the engineers are gathering data.
That's the
We have
delay
a
on the meeting.
In order to give you, not a definitive answer, but to give you different scenarios of what it would take, not just to cure things on Woodhaven, but that whole area down there. The time, the money, working with other municipalities, and that's just a very, 10,000-foot concept, but they want to be able to give you at least some kind of semblance of answers on what it would take to cure the problem.
Because the insurance companies won't let us buy flood insurance, or they didn't, and because they said we're not in a flood zone. But every time it rains, we're in a flood zone. So, I mean, maybe we should be considered a flood zone. At least we can get insurance.
That's not for us.
That's,
We can't.
you have to consider a national flood zone, and I get that happen, we have a better chance of putting in new sewer. It's, same thing happened with me at my home. And
Well, anything you can do to help would really appreciate it, because we're out
I think
a
they're
ton of money.
trying.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
You know that.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address council? Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting.
Answer my wife's question.
Yeah, we're closing that portion of the meeting, but I'm going to answer some of the questions I had from earlier. As far as Dr. Beck mentioned, the mineral rights under the pool, we're still looking into that. And I'll quote you actually making this story up, the compressor station, that can't happen in that zoning district, even if that was something that that's not what's happening. But to your point about making that story up, if that fictional story was happening, it could not happen in that zoning district as per our current ordinance in Monroeville. So the planning commission, it has to go, no, we're not doing this, nope. That section is closed. The planning commission, as far as why it has to do that, it's just the procedure with ordinances. They have to go, in this kind of situation, go to the planning commission first, and then it comes to council, and then we go with their.
It's a municipality's planning code in the
Correct.
state, why you have to do that.
And then as far as the advertising the flooding meeting for Logan's Ferry in that region, I think that's a good idea. We'll put that on the calendar for people if they're interested. And as far as a sponsorship of the ordinance, that's not a necessary thing, that it could just be presented by staff, by the manager, to be on the agenda. It doesn't have to be actually sponsored by a particular council person or the mayor.
It
So
is necessary by code, Mr. Mayor.
we're not going to go back and forth yelling from the audience, and that's not the way we handle meetings. But you made your comments. We're going to look at the ordinance, and we'll see what the next step is. So, council, we're going to look at our agenda. For Tuesday, we have our volunteer fire department chiefs coming out. They're going to present on Tuesday. Council, we're going to look at your minutes. We have our minutes of our Citizens Night meeting of August 8th, 2019, our council work session of August 8th, 2019, and our regular council meeting of August 13th, 2019. Any questions, comments, or additions, council?
No, sir.
Seeing none. Reports of our tax collections. Does council have any questions or comments about those?
No, sir.
List of bills and budget transfers. Mrs. Gatos, any questions
Mayor.
this
Nothing,
evening?
sir.
Mayor, excuse me. Pat Fulkerson's here tonight, and he would like to discuss, or not discuss, just talk about some of the revenue that we've received from.
The reports of the tax, Mr. Folkson, is that?
Yeah,
The floor is yours if you would.
thank you.
You weren't planning on it.
Sure he was.
Anyways.
He told me yesterday.
Mr. Folkson, I guess if you show up, you get pulled up on the
All right.
microphone. But yeah, under the, council, this is under the reports of the tax collections.
We have really we have collected on delinquent taxes over $1 million this year, as your report stated. And I'd like to give recognition to the hard work that my staff has given to accomplish this $1 million. 300,000 of this $1 million has gone to the school, and we have collected over $700,000 for the municipality. And this took over a 5-year period of going to these people and trying to get them to pay their taxes on mercantile. And it was a long process with the help of the solicitor and my department. We worked on that, and it finally came to an end. And I'm very proud of the, because they were consistent. They were they didn't give up of this, and this is why you have this type of money that came about this past month. And and overall, in the last 5 years, you remember the $6 million man? Well, we are the $6 million department. So that's what I was trying to. And I thank Tom for giving us, I did tell him yesterday that,
Appreciate you.
and I appreciate the resources that council gives me and my department. That's a plus. If it wasn't for everybody giving us the resources, we could not do the job that we do. So I appreciate that too. And I appreciate the solicitor. He has been outstanding for our department. And Mr. Little gives us a great support. So that's what I wanted to say.
Oh,
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Council, we're back in front of our list of bills and budget transfers. Mrs. Gatos, do you have any questions this evening?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Coach?
No, sir.
Mr. Harvey?
Nothing.
Mr. Johns?
No, sir.
Mr. Wilson,
No.
anything? And then our payroll report, any comments or questions, council?
No, sir.
Seeing none.
No, sir.
Council, we're going to look at our consent agenda. We have old business 14-8-ST. Mr. Little, please.
Okay, the first one is IAMEA, Organization of Pittsburgh, IMAMEA. Is that the way? IMAMEA?
Imamia.
IMAMIA?
Imamia.
Imamia.
Okay, I don't know, a third one I was going to strike out. Applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct 8,419 square feet church and associated site amenities. The property is located at 351 Old Haymaker Road in the M1 Plan Industrial and R2 Single Family Residential Zoning Districts. The applicant is requesting a second reapproval of this site plan. Council reapproved the site plan on December the 12th, 2017. Is the applicant here? Applicant is not here.
Applicant's not here. Any
I have some comments.
comments?
I have some comments, but
Mr. Hugus, please.
hear yours.
I'm going to speak because this occurred before Paul Wheeldon got here. So since this approval, our stormwater management ordinance has changed, our standards have changed. Paul has sent comment letters to the applicant who has been non-responsive. So I would suggest if it doesn't occur between now and Tuesday, that you not consider this.
Thank you.
My motion would be to turn it down, correct?
If they don't address it by Tuesday, which it'd be kind of hard to do at this point.
Okay, we'll make sure the council knows that.
They've been
information before Tuesday.
non-responsive to this point.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, second one is number 1 Cochrane. Applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct a Cadillac showroom addition to the existing GMC Buick building and associated site amenities on property zone C2 Business Commercial. Property is located at 4520 William Penn Highway and known as tax parcel 997J380. Planning Commission recommends approval with this application.
Ray, if you just state your name for the record.
Ray Gusty from Farragut McCarty Gray.
Welcome.
Representing number 1 Cochrane tonight.
Very good. If you go through your presentation, that'd be great.
Okay. If I can orient everyone to the drawings here. So this is the Cochrane campus along Route 22. Route 22 is along the top portion of the site in an east-west direction. The main entrance is located here. The existing Cadillac showroom is located back here. This gray or tan area is the existing GMC Buick building, and this dark shaded area here is where the proposed Cochrane Cadillac showroom will go. So this gives you an idea where the new showroom will go on site.
Are they moving the Cadillac? Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're going to move it from here over to here. So this is just an enlargement of that same area. The gray, light gray is the GMC Buick showroom. This yellow-green area here is the proposed Cadillac showroom. Main showroom will face out towards Route 22. The new vehicle delivery is located on the east side of the building. We're providing the required number of parking spaces according to the ordinance. All utilities will be extended from within the Buick GMC building into the Cadillac showroom.
So they're building off the back of the Buick dealership?
It's really like on the side of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then
It'll be
remove it
connected
from
to
the curve?
But it's on the Route 22 side.
Right.
It'll be connected to the existing GMC
The existing,
building.
yeah, okay.
And I have an elevation here of the showroom. So it's mostly, glass and precast panels.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, I'll try and answer. We
What's the
actually
square
approved this
footage
back
of the
in
building?
2013.
What's the square footage of the building?
I think it was a little over 5,000 square feet.
Will that be garage and showroom, or just showroom?
Just showroom and offices.
That's all?
All the service.
Maintenance, yeah.
Service will continue in the GMC Buick building to where it is now, so.
Thanks.
And Ray, you mentioned about approving in 2013?
It was a similar plan. It was approved by council back in
Okay.
2013.
But they changed the plan.
2013. They never built it. We had it approved, they never built it. We're revisiting it now, so.
Very good. Mr. Wheeldon, any comments from your end?
No outstanding issues.
Very good. Council, any questions?
No, sir.
Great, we'll consider this on Tuesday.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Little, item number 2.
Item number 2, 19-4 SGB Roger Brown. Applicant is requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval of tax parcel 85G16. Applicant proposes to consolidate lots 25 and 27 into one lot labeled 27R, and then subdivide parcel 1 from the newly created lot 27R. Parcel 1 is a non-conforming, non-buildable lot intended only to be deeded to the adjoining property owner of tax parcel 859G64. Property is located at 300 Coleman Drive in the R2 one-family residential zoning district. Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Sir, if you could state your name for the record.
Certainly. Brian Almeter with Farringer McCurdy Gray. With me this evening is Roger Brown, the owner of the property. As stated, Mr. Brown purchased lots 25 and 27 in the Green Hills Manor plan of lots, number 2 revised. And essentially what this plan is doing is combining them, officially combining them, and subdividing out the bright green area, which is approximately 27 feet wide by 125 feet long, so that it can be deeded to the adjoining property owner. There's some trees there and some play equipment for the kids. And
Could you get my bearings?
Sure.
Is there a cul-de-sac?
yeah, the cul-de-sac is right here.
What is it?
Haymaker Road
Okay.
is on the outside, on the opposite side. So, as you're looking at the home, the property that is being created to sell to the adjoining property is right here in the light green. So we received comments and have addressed those of the municipal engineer, and I think we're open for a vote.
Very good. Mr. Wilton, same thing. Any questions or comments?
No outstanding issues.
Okay. Council, any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Very good.
Thank you very
See this
much.
on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 3, 19-2 ST AHN Forbes. Applicants requesting a site plan approval to renovate and construct an addition to the lobby of the existing hospital, Forbes Hospital, and install associated site amenities on the property zone C2 Business Commercial. Property is located at 2570 Haymaker Road. Planning Commission recommends approval to the application.
Welcome, sir. If you could just state your name for the record.
Jerry Klodowski with Civil and Environmental Consultants.
Hi, Jerry.
So here today, we're presenting the lobby expansion for the AHN Forbes Hospital campus. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the project. The existing hospital is situated here. Professional office building is to the north. So currently, they have a drop-off that swings in a little closer with some handicap parking in the middle. The idea behind this is twofold. Number one, the lobby that they currently have is just a small portion. It lacks some of the amenities that some of the newer hospitals have, some of the seating space, the public space. The other issue is the skywalk that comes across and enters in on what would be the third level. It enters in directly to patient space.
And the skywalk?
Yes.
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 And POB2.
So when you come from POB2 directly into the hospital, you're walking into a hallway of patient rooms. So the idea was to create a gathering place, so when you come across the skywalk, you're in an actual lobby. There'll be directional signing to tell you which ways to go. What we did is we took some of the handicap parking that was in the middle, and we split it for both the use for the lobby and POB. And we moved the rest of it onto the other side, and we added some additional spaces. Total parking on the campus, the requirement is 1,422 spaces. The existing parking is 1,498 spaces. With this plan, we removed 117 of the existing spaces, but we replaced 99 spaces. So we lost 20 spaces, but we still are a net positive for our parking. The hospital understands that even though they do meet the parking requirement of the campus, their goal is to always add additional parking, just their use, their function. They see the need for more parking, so we're trying to we're not going to try to get down to the actual requirement. We're always going to be over that parking requirement. All of the existing utilities will be connected inside of the old building with the exception of stormwater. We will direct some new stormwater drains out to, we have a couple little features here. We have 2 rain gardens that are being proposed that'll be heavily planted. One of the criteria from the hospitals, they don't want these things to look ugly. So we have strict orders to make them nice, very well manicured. The parking lot stormwater will be held in this underground tank. It's a 48-inch tank, and it will ultimately discharge down and into the pond that was developed as part of the previous cancer center project. So it extends all the way down past the pit parking lot and down into the stormwater basin. One of the peculiar things with stormwater on this project is this is the dividing line between 3 separate drainage areas. The ordinance is very explicit with how we handle volume control and rate control. Rate control on the campus is handled by, as I discussed, the pond that's down by the pit, and then there's a couple ponds out front on
Haymaker.
So overall, the campus, we reduce the runoff of peak rate, but with the additional impervious area, we have some volume increase. So that was the purpose of the rain gardens and the tank, is to offset that. The explicitness described in the ordinance is that the volume has to stay in its watershed. So that's why we have the tank on this side to handle the volume increase on this side of the watershed, and the rain gardens to handle the volume increase on this side of the watershed. So that's why we sort of split it up instead of doing it in one place.
Very good. Council, any questions?
The water line that you have to move, that's been run through with the water authority, and everybody's good with that?
I was going to ask him if he.
It has been the relocation of the large line.
Yeah.
No, we are going to, this project right now, it's a design build. The architecturals and the MEPs are still in process.
Okay.
So that is one of the things we still have to take care of is some of that utility coordination.
Okay.
We've also, we've had some discussion with the fire official as well about where to locate our fire department connection on the building. So that is not shown on these plans, but we do have that figured out and worked out with him, so.
Okay.
Mr. Wielden, any comments or concerns from your end?
No.
Very good. Council, any other questions?
No, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's a needed, new front space.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Yeah.
Looks like it's gonna be a nice project.
I think it's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, I actually, there's a quick little.
I was gonna say,
architectural-
if you have a drawing, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
There we go.
They're not too sold. These colors are changing. I mean, the existing hospital is this buff color. I don't think they're sold on this building for all of this to be buff. I think they're gonna look at some type of a gray paneling.
Yay.
I've been in several long meetings discussing the type of materials and things like that. So, if you're familiar with the cancer center, it's gonna be very similar to that building.
That's a nice looking building.
Yeah, so
Yes.
they're trying to carry that, through the campus.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay?
Good.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
So council will consider this on Tuesday. Council, we're going to move over to our motions on the agenda. We have 5 this evening. Mr. Little.
Okay, the first one is a motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance for a stop sign on Horizon Drive at Bryan Court. This is in Haymaker Village. Any questions from council on this?
Tim, we need to interject, it's a multi-way stop sign.
Multi-way. We'll make sure that's in the, on the agenda for Tuesday. Is it written that way in the ordinance?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, second is a motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance establishing a handicap parking only zone on Shady Ridge Drive in front of 370 Shady Ridge Drive. Any questions from council on this? Anything at all?
Next.
A motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance for an easement onto Alpine Village Drive, which Mr. Magro, is it Magro or Magrove? Magro, okay, that's what I thought, okay.
Yeah, just as a quick comment, this is to replace Mr. Magro and Mrs. Magro's bridge that was damaged in the past flood event that they were accessing their property over the years from Abers Creek Road. Now, unfortunately, they cannot, so Monroeville, we're trying to get them another way to get to their home. So right now, they're parking on the Abers Creek Road side of the bridge, walking up to their home. So we're trying to make it a little bit better for them down there. So that's what this ordinance will be about.
Yeah, we don't want them swimming.
swimming.
We don't want you swimming.
No swimming.
Okay, number 4 is the motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance to enter into an agreement to sell 10.42 acres of the municipal property known as the Bel Air Swimming Pool to the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission for the purpose of widening the Pennsylvania Turnpike in Monroeville.
And once again, just to clarify, this is what council will be considering on Tuesday, September 10th, is just to vote on advertising the ordinance. It won't be, council will not be considering the sale of the property until the October meeting at the soonest.
Okay, next one is a motion to renew the Turtle Creek Valley Council of Government lease. And I want to discuss a few items with, there isn't anything in your packet on this. They have a 10-year lease, which is up at the end of this year. And right now, they're paying $1,350 on approximately 1,600 square feet of office space, 1,600, 1,700. And the lease renewed 5 years ago, and as it was constructed in 2009, there would be an increase if there was a 20% more increase in the utilities. Now, they had no increase 5 years ago, and I figured that out, but to simplify matters, they're paying just about the going rate per square foot of Class A property on the very low end of $1.19 per square foot of property, and the average for Class A property is $1.17 to $1.42. It can even go higher. If it pleases council, my recommendation is to put verbiage in there, and Mr. Ratcher can help me out with this if he so pleases, to say that it'll be, and I would agree with another 10-year lease with an option to look at the cost per square foot in another 5 years, because the COG, I think everybody would agree, they're an asset in this building, and they collect our MS4 fee. And but I would like to change how, if there's any increase of per square foot of commercial property on the average, on the low end, because that's what they're paying now, and it's a governmental building, but it's a Class A commercial property, and to structure it that way for any increase instead of it being based on utilities. Does council have any questions or anything on that?
Council, any questions?
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have something for Tuesday, hopefully, on that end to renew their lease is up at the end of the year, so it's not like as if it has to be done. But Amanda Settlemeyer asked me to bring that to the attention, and I thought that'd be, a more fair way instead of going according to the utilities. Okay, that it's for the motions.
Okay, resolutions this evening, council. Under Section D, we have 4 resolutions. And Mr. Little, you want to continue?
Okay, resolution under Act 205 of 1984, known as the Municipal Pension Plan Funding Standard Recovery Act, authorizing the 2020 minimum municipal obligation, otherwise known as the MMO, for the police and non-uniform pension plans. Now, the non-uniform pension plan, MMO, the numbers are in it. We just received the numbers today from our actuary for the police, so you will have that at the meeting on Tuesday. And under Act 205, this just has to be presented to you, but I think putting in a resolution memorializes it much better. Any questions on that?
And right now, the non-uniform, the obligation is $1,339,418.
Correct. Okay, number 2 is a resolution authorizing the proper municipal officials to enter into a winter traffic services agreement for 5 years with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation during the winter seasons of 2019 to 2024. There is virtually no increase in this. There is some slight modifications to the lengths of the roads, and council can see the roads that we do.
I was going to say, where are they listed?
Yeah, they should be on there. Maybe the whole agreement.
I didn't see them in there.
I didn't see them.
If council wishes that, I can get you that on Tuesday. Okay. if,
Can you put it so that we can see what there was and what there's gonna, what the change is?
sure, I can do that, sure.
Very good. Next item.
Okay, number 3 is a resolution of intention to adopt the active transportation plan. As council is aware, this is something that's been worked on for about 18 months, and it was segued from our comprehensive plan, as we did with Wilkins and Churchill Borough. Now, Wilkins has passed their active transportation plan. This has to do with different modes of transportation other than automobile. It has to do with walking, it has to do with bicycle, and it has to do with anything that is non-vehicle. Public transit. And we've also had Port Authority out here on several occasions, although there's no obligation from them as far as putting routes, which they've talked about, up to CCAC and also over to Forbes. Council, have any questions on the active transportation plan?
Just on something you just mentioned, I have a question. Was there any progress on getting buses to CCAC and Forbes?
Yes.
There was progress?
Yeah, I had a meeting with Forbes and the Port Authority a week and a half ago. There was a challenge at the Port Authority. There was a retirement that happened with the person that was running that. And so the project kind of fell flat because it was an abrupt retirement. So there's a new employee that's now taking this over. We've met with him, and yeah, they're very optimistic about it. So
Okay.
it's moving in the right direction, absolutely.
Good. Okay, any other questions? Okay, number 4, resolution adopting the UPMC East Emergency Department Addition Sewage Planning Module. Any questions on that?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay.
Very good. We're going to move over to our reports of municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher, anything this evening?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
And Tim, back to you.
Yeah, the senior center new hours, Labor Day to Memorial Day will be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, and in October, the 2020 budget presentation will occur at the council meeting, just as a reminder. Monroeville Foundation Golf Outing is Friday, September 13th at Meadowink in Murraysville.
What time is that, Tim?
The shotgun is at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, ECSNR, as they usually do about 3 times a year, they're collecting hazardous and electronic waste collection Saturday, October the 5th at the Public Works building from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And also, ECSNR has started their curb hazardous and electronic waste collection recycling. So you can go onto our website, there is a link, and you can order to have it picked up at the curbside. They do it by weight, and also there's a $50 charge. I would recommend getting several people in your neighborhood together when you get hazardous waste and electronic, and call them and kind of have a block party on it. So that started on about 2-3 weeks ago.
Is this the same people that you?
Correct.
Over at Public Works?
Correct, same people,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, also, I'd just like to thank Jerry Maynard, a colleague of mine in Rotary. He is a resident handyman in Rotary. We have new monitors up here on the dais, and the inserts that are put in to cover over the holes, Jerry did. And I'd like to thank him for that. He did an excellent job, as he normally does.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, and also condolences to former Councilman Rollo Vecchio from Pitcairn on his passing away. Condolences to his family. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Mr. Hugus, anything this evening?
No, sir.
Ms. Rock?
Yeah, I just want to say that we are steadily moving along on the budget so that we will be ready for the October 8th meeting.
Oh, thank you, Josie.
Very good.
Josie and the Pussycats on the job.
And going to our reports of our council members. Mrs. Gatos, you want to get started?
Sure. I had 2 things written down. One, of course, was the condolences to the Vecchio family for the passing of Rollo. He's a big part of Pitcairn, but, he's big life. He did a lot for a lot of things, a lot of places. And I also had written down about that Water Authority meeting letter, because I was just floored that somebody would be that rude to do that to these poor people that have already been through so much. And I am just gonna say it again, I don't know how you can look at yourself in the mirror after doing that to these people. And I feel sorry, I'm sorry it happened to you. I know I apologized that night, but again, you know, we wanna try and help, we don't wanna hurt you guys. So, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And remember, school's in, please, again.
Drive safely.
Kids are out. And I think that's all I have.
Very good. Mr. Poach?
Yeah, again, thanks to the folks that we've been in contact with on the community pools and the folks that have voiced their opinions here this evening. Again, continue to look forward to being contacted. We have to, we're pulling that information together. We really only got it after Labor Day, so Tuesday, you know. So to do that as well. So thank you for doing that, and be patient. It's moving forward. We're going to try to look as much as we can, so appreciate that. Other than that, trivia night is again at the library on the 14th. I take all challengers. That's the and happy birthday to Mrs. Gatos. I forgot too. Yeah, this week.
Thank you.
So, all right, that's all, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey?
The first thing we already discussed at the beginning of the meeting, but I'll reiterate. Once we get all the professionals together on the same date, we will be having that citizens meeting concerning flooding on the Logan's Ferry Road area. And it'll be here, but we got to get a date together, and then Mr. Little will send out a letter. And the only other thing I have is that kind of request to Mr. Hugus. I wanted to see him before tonight's meeting, but I didn't have that chance. And I have a large amount of residents over there that called me. I did talk to them for quite some time about this issue because it's not the first time it's come up. However, I do understand that due to development, Logan's Ferry Road is getting busier. So they want to know what it would take to get a stop sign put in at Skyview Drive and or Colonial, but mainly the request was Skyview. They have a petition of about 80 signatures, and I told them the past history of that, the traffic and engineering study needs for that, and that's been quite some time, so I don't know.
Well, there was a stop sign there.
Yeah.
It was removed with the traffic calming that was in place with the speed humps.
I know.
Back when that was done probably 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, to undo that, we'd have to do another traffic and engineering study to see if it's warranted.
That's what I'm asking.
We could do it, sure.
How was it removed?
That was part of the traffic calming study that was done. We hired a third-party engineer to do that, and that was their recommendation in conjunction with the speed humps, was to remove that stop sign.
So I'm having a request that it be put back in.
Yeah, when you come out of Skyview and make that left turn to get on Logan's Ferry, they come flying down the hill.
Yeah, that's,
And, I mean, you take your life in your hands if you're a little bit too slow.
so if we could get that done if we're allowed to put it back in, I'd like council's authorization to put it back in, once we get a result from that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Mr. Johns?
Yes, sir. A couple of things going on at the Convention Center, September 6th through the 8th. Camp, coins, and more promotions. September 21st and 22nd, Military Antiques Extravaganza. September 28th and 29th, Mind, Body, Spirit Healing. Sure what that is, but September 30th through October 1st, Billy Burke World Outreach. And one other thing I saw on here, Guardian Storage I saw is offering a free shredded event, September 21st at their Guardian Storage.
Where's Guardian at?
There's two of them. There's one on 286 and the other one's going down over
Oh, past the.
Yeah, I don't know
fire
where it just
department.
says Guardian Storage.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's all I have, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one adjacent
My
to
job, yeah.
the industrial park. Thank you.
yes.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor. Joe, would you put those photographs up, please?
Just give me a second here.
Sure, take your time. First of all, I'd like to send my condolences to the Rollo Vecchio family. Rollo was a great friend of mine. He was a councilman in Pitcairn for many, many years. He did so much for the community. He could make one phone call and money would flow into Pitcairn faster than you could write a check. Let's see, now this photograph that we're showing here, these are people that are dumping illegally up at the East Park. And we don't know who they are, but what I'm proposing tonight is that I would like to see us raise the fee for illegal dumping from $500 to $2,000. And Penn Hills has just done that. And they require the people, once they capture them and prosecute, that they have to come back and clean and take away the dumping that they have done. So,
Mr. Wilson, that is something that I had sent on those pictures to Mr. Little and asked for some kind of resolve so that they could not get in there to do the dumping. I sent it to quite a few people to see if anyone recognized these people. I got no answers on
no,
that.
I understand that.
Yeah, and we saw, and Penn Hills had just raised their, like you say, which I think is a fantastic idea. And Mr. Little and I had discussed also doing that based on what you can see here.
Well, thank
Great
you.
idea. So that's in an ordinance, so we would have to
Yes.
pull that ordinance and rework it, so
Right.
Mr. Little,
Well,
we could.
yeah, Tim's going to look at, Tim thinks that, well, you tell him what you think.
Well, as a comment, as we do, I believe, and I'll defer to Paul on this, because this would be a fee coming out of code enforcement. We revise the fees every year when we pass the budget. Now, does council want to do this?
I think
soon?
they're outlined specifically within that ordinance.
Correct.
So you'd have to
Right.
redo the ordinance or not put a fee in the ordinance and put the fee in the fee schedule so you can adjust it without doing the ordinance.
So why don't you, may have Mr. Ratcher look at the ordinance and see how we need to do it, or the best way to do it?
The
If
best
we
way.
can do it with the fee schedule and the budget, then just do it. that way.
Because we
Yeah,
do it
that's-
annually.
Yes.
That's what I was going to suggest.
It did,
But if
let
it's
me-
already in the ordinance.
Let me just throw caution though at this. The only way you're gonna be able to do any type of conviction is to make sure that you get a license plate.
Right.
Because that's how you have to identify a vehicle.
yeah.
You know, you take pictures from afar, which we can all see.
Right.
That still can't identify it, so until you actually get a picture of a license
License
plate,
plate.
you're
Well,
not gonna get
this
anyone.
was taken by a citizen
Right.
that saw
But-
it happening.
I
But
mean, we're gonna do a more permanent remedy to
Correct.
prevent this to happen.
Which is what else we discussed, was to put up some barriers.
Right.
So that they could not get into there. That was, we had already
Right.
discussed that as well.
Right, and we do have an employee that lives there.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Retired,
Yes.
retired employee.
He's retired?
But there's a person there.
Park host.
Yes, there is a park host.
Okay,
There's a
but
park-
but
there's a
anyway,
park host there.
yeah, we need to be more vigilant with this issue.
I talked to him, and he said that at one time there was a list of people, and this is moot now, because as Paul and I have talked, and Mrs. Gatos, is that we are gonna put a permanent barrier up there, so nobody could dump there, but
Right.
in the past, there was a list of people who could dump their clean fill, and one of them was the authority, another. But we're not gonna have anybody dumping there. Now, in conjunction with that, when he goes out, he does shopping, he's not at home all
Right,
the
right.
time. He comes back and
He's
somebody
not there
tells him somebody,
24/7.
Correct.
So, but it's
Just
gonna
what
be
was the
moot
problem.
because we're gonna put a guardrail up there.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Not that they can't
And what are
throw it
we
over the
doing
guardrail.
with
But
the,
we're at least trying.
with the gates for the training center and for the senior center? Where are we there?
Well, I think we had the gates for this fire training center. I think they were on order, if I'm not mistaken.
They're on
Well, there
order?
was an issue with the amperage, with the electricity.
I don't wanna throw Chief Cole under the bus. I think he might be in the hallway.
He is.
Let's throw him under the bus.
Bring
It's
them
still
on
being,
in.
it's still being worked on, is what you're saying.
He has those proposals.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, so my other question is, since there's been some issues at the senior center during some events at Gateway. How can we prevent that this weekend, since there's a football game at Gateway this weekend?
Well, my suggestion would be to have because most likely you're talking about after the football game, I'm assuming. Nobody knows.
Well, it could be, who knows when.
I would have the chief, I can tell the chief to have an officer go down there more periodically, maybe every half hour or whatever the case might be during the football game around the back of the senior citizen center. and
Would
back.
it be easier just to put up the orange cones to prevent them from going in?
We can do that. I don't know if it'll prevent them.
Rather than waste the officers'
We do have a
valuable
gate,
time?
right?
Yeah.
What's that? Ron?
There's a gate coming for the senior.
Yeah, well, it's not here yet, so,
We can do that.
okay. Thank you. I'm finished, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Once again, I reiterate some of the comments from earlier. Thanks to the pool members and the community for coming out and giving us their opinion and their ideas. And we're still working very, very hard at this matter. Thanks to Mr. Poach, who's chairing this committee. He's doing a lot of hard work to get all the answers so council can make the most informed decision. The Logan's Ferry flooding victims, we'll look for that meeting coming up, and Mr. Harvey, great job with trying to coordinate that and getting that rolling, but it is going to take some time with getting all the information, and then long-term, unfortunately, the remedies are going to take quite some time. So, but we're hoping to get more information out at this upcoming meeting. An event in Monroeville, the former Westinghouse building behind Allegheny Health Network Forbes Hospital, it was acquired several months back by an investment firm, and Nextier HD, and what they are doing is they're rebranding the building. They don't want it to be considered or called the old Westinghouse building like it's been. It's going to be Nextier Connect Pittsburgh East. They're rebranding it as a mixed-use campus. This company, I'm really optimistic about them. We've met with them several times. They seem to be very good members of the community, and they're becoming good neighbors. They currently have about 1,000 employees under their current leases in that mixed-use building, and they definitely have a lot of great ideas moving forward for the campus. So we're very optimistic about them and their ownership of that building, and looking forward to them growing here in Monroeville. So big thanks to them for coming in and taking the site and turning into some good use there. And as everyone else mentioned, deepest condolences to the Rollo Vecchio family and to our neighbors, Pitcairn, for their loss too of a giant in that community, that's for sure. So he will certainly be missed. With that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Can I just mention one thing? I didn't realize we had gotten an email from Mr. Le.
I think that would be discussed at the
With the
Convention Visitors Bureau
VMs.
meeting. We didn't have that.
Oh, well, he sent it. I just thought maybe, they wanted to show the logo or not.
We'll do it after the board meeting for the Convention Visitors Bureau. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Good night.